Never before has Kenyan politics been so super fascinatingly interesting. Never ever. But in my humble opinion, I believe we analysts are asking the wrong questions and we are looking in the wrong places. And please don't get me wrong. You see, I have absolutely nothing to brag about except my love and trust in God Almighty and what He has done for me and where He picked me up from. The trash cans of this life to bring me here where I am today. I have absolutely nothing to brag about. That is important because I don't want anybody to misunderstand me over what I'm about to say. You see, if you look in the wrong places and you ask the wrong questions, you will come up with an analysis that could be entertaining, could be engrossing, but it will miss the key, very important things you need to be looking at. And sooner rather than later, those things are going to overtake you and you're going to find yourself confused and stranded. It is like you standing outside your house and noticing that there's smoke coming up from somewhere on your roof and there is a small fire. And then when you open your mouth, you're asking, "Meanika nguo? Have you put the clothes out to dry?" That is exactly what we're doing in analyzing Kenyan politics at the moment. Because the right question to ask is, why is there smoke on my roof? That is the right, very urgent question you need to ask. Not if the clothes have been put out to dry. Of course, it may be terribly important that the clothes dry because the shirt you're going to wear tomorrow for a very important function has been washed and it must be dried and ironed. However, it is also true that if your house burns down to the ground, even you attending that function is a non-issue. How the country is going to be governed until the next elections in 2027, I agree, is terribly important. The lineup for 2027 is also important. However, there are other things which are unfolding which suggest that the country may not hold together for much longer. Not even to the end of the year 2025, let alone 2027. My sincere apologies if I was rambling on. Okay, it was not intentional. So, we need to ask the right questions. And the first question we need to ask is, has anything changed over the last 72 hours or so? And the answer to that question is a resounding yes. In fact, there has been a major political shift with very far-reaching, very serious consequences. It would appear that one mad moment of great rage and anger towards Rigathi Gachagua has resulted in a disaster. You know, there are some things we do in this life which look so small. And in other instances, we feel that we are so powerful that there are some things we can do and there will be no consequences. Okay? However, we only realize that small thing we started with, how it finished us, when we're already finished. That is the truth. Now let us get a few things right. I am not and will never be a supporter of Rigathi Gachagua. Okay? Let's get that very clear. I do not support any community in Kenya over another community. Let us get that very clear. And the Ancient of Days blessed me tremendously by making sure I really don't belong to any Kenyan community. By default, biological father Kamba, biological mother Luhya, Bukusu subtribe, born in Kisumu. I can barely speak any of the vernaculars. I can't speak Luhya and I can't speak Kamba. The first language my tongue learned how to speak was Kiswahili. Folks, I belong to the Kenyan tribe, and that is the truth. So there's no community I'm favoring. My very, very strong advice to you, if you want to understand the very important things unfolding in our country, which are going to impact on all of us tremendously, if you want to understand them, please forget your emotions, or at least try to control them so that your brain can start working. Okay, because this is very important. It is terribly important. So, what is this that has happened that is so earth-shaking, earth-moving in Kenya, that has unfolded over the last 3 or 4 days? What is it? Glad you asked. I'm going to answer that question in very great detail. And at the end of it all, you are going to be shocked to your bones. But first, please allow me a very important message. You see, being 20 years old is a very big deal. And the Kumekucha brand is about to celebrate 20 years of existence. It is a very big deal for me. Very big. Because I have many stories to tell of this journey that has brought me here to this time and space. Very many fascinating stories. And I start with the very first one right here in this video towards the tail end of my show today. That is something for you to look forward to. So please stick around. Also, my rallying cry and mantra for Kumekucha right from the beginning is all for a better Kenya, and also doing only what can stand the test of time. Now, of course, it is not always easy, but I try my very best. That is what is my driving force behind Kumekucha. And that is precisely the reason why we have a very useful ebook that has helped many Kenyans, titled Get Plenty of Customers Right Away, even in a dead economy. Now you have a golden opportunity of getting a free sample copy of this ebook. Yeah. In case you are one of the people, one of the very many people in our dear country, faced with this challenge, amid the economic hardship, faced with this challenge of finding enough customers for your business to keep on running. Okay? It has valuable tips. Now you can see details on your screens right now. All you have to do is ask for it. Okay? Use the usual email address. You missed this at gmail.com. Drop me an email with the words Get Customers ebook in the subject area, and I will send it right back to you, this sample ebook. If it is easier for you, you can simply send me your email. Text it to our usual telephone number 0701 333 112. And somewhere in that SMS, just write the word book and I'll understand. And I will send it to you right away. And then, please also allow me to mention our sponsors yet again for today's show, LemFi. This, of course, is an app to send money to your loved ones that has many, many advantages. And I would urge you at least to try it out. And if you use my code, Kumekucha, you'll be able to get a cashback reward, even as you find out for yourself how convenient and good this particular app is. It'll make your life easier. Right, let's get on with it. The elephant in the room. This very major thing that has shifted so much in Kenya, and nobody's even talking about it. We need to tackle that. And please allow me to take you back in history, very briefly, and I assure you it is not going to be boring. Very briefly, so that I can illustrate to you how small things you do, or at least to you, with all the power you currently wield, with all the power you have, at least to you, it looks like a small thing. but the consequences in the end are colossal. In fact, they finish you. Okay, I just want to illustrate that with a super fascinating tale of something that happened right here in Kenya, some years back, that will leave no doubt on your mind about what we are talking about here. And very, very fascinating. If you just take the time to think a little deeper, you will realize that it is same monkeys, different forest. You just have to remove the angle of madawa ya kulevya from the story I'm about to tell you, and you'll totally understand. Now, in the year 1995, there was a very powerful madawa ya kulevya baron who was based in Mombasa, Kenya. Okay? And he was very rich and very powerful. He had become even more powerful because when the very first multi-party elections were held in 1992, he had financed Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi's presidential campaign. He had heavily financed the KANU party in those elections. His name, of course, was Ibrahim Akasha. And indeed, after the 1992 general elections and presidential elections, Ibrahim Akasha became untouchable. A few people made the mistake of crossing him, and they really regretted it. And so in 1995, there is this police officer who was sent from Nairobi. Alikuwa amezubaa kidogo. Or the poor guy was just so determined to do his job. Now when he was transferred to Mombasa, he had only one mission. To deal with the drug barons in that particular city of Kenya. And this scope was very serious. And sooner rather than later, he was knocking on the door, the palatial door of a very rich man called Ibrahim Akasha. Now, when untouchable, powerful Ibrahim Akasha realized that this small cop had actually come to his residence to ask him maswali za ujinga about what he was doing, he got very angry. And because he knew he was powerful, he kidnapped the cop. I'm not kidding you. Akasha held him at his house in Nyali for many weeks, while telling him, you're going to know who I am. Do you know who I am? Do you know how powerful I am? Wewe umekanyaga waya stima, or something like that. And they finally released him, of course after giving him a thorough beating. Imagine this is a cop in a house of civilians. And so when this cop was released, of course nothing happened to Akasha. He was untouchable. But some people in our intelligence community were not amused. Old school people. They couldn't believe this story. A civilian kidnapped a senior police officer. No. That cannot happen. Ever. And when they did the inquiries, they realized that actually Akasha was more than untouchable, because he had direct links to State House. After all, he had heavily financed Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi's campaign and KANU's campaign in 1992. But these people in the intelligence service were still not going to let this go. No. This cannot be allowed to happen. Now, in any intelligence service in any part of the world, there are two types of characters. There are the muscle people, the ones that we see and admire in movies, and then there are the thinkers, the ones we never see in the movies. Now the thinkers sat down and decided that they were going to deal with untouchable. You will not guess what they did next. Now, before I tell you, remember that up to this time, very few people had any idea of what Ibrahim Akasha looked like. Okay? Even fewer people knew or were able to link him with the madawa ya kulevya trade. He was anonymous. He was in the shadows. Nobody had seen him. Or rather, he was hiding in plain sight. And so, what the thinkers at the intelligence service did is that they sent policemen to arrest Ibrahim Akasha. Yeah. Of course, on charges related to madawa ya kulevya. And when he was arrested, people were puzzled. And lawyers were even more puzzled. Okay, they've arrested him. But where's the evidence? And meanwhile, inside the police cells, Akasha must have been bragging, like he always brags. You just wait. In a few minutes, I'll be out of here. And the people responsible for this must pay. I am Akasha, beating at his chest. I am Akasha. Watajua mimi ni nani. Watajua hawajui. You know, sometimes in this life, it pays. It is a matter of life and death. Yeah, that you think just a little bit deeper. That's a hot tip. It is a matter of life and death that you think just a little bit more deeper. And so Akasha was presented in court. The press were there. The cameras were flashing. The charges were read out. His name was read out very clearly. Ibrahim Akasha. That's the photograph. That's him. That's what he looks like. I've been hearing so much. I thought these were rumors. Kumbe, this guy actually exists. And he's the one. And very, very predictably, after the charges were read, the magistrate was puzzled. Where's the evidence? He's looking at the cops, who at that time were prosecuting all these cases. Yeah, things today have changed. And the prosecuting cops looked back at the judge, even more confused. And the judge said, you people are wasting the court's time. And he released Akasha. And of course Akasha came out beaming. These people thought they could hold me. Ati charge me in a court of law. They don't know who I am. Kumbe, something major had changed. Akasha had been exposed. And what followed was a chain of events which maybe to the casual observer would seem completely unlinked, with this mix-up of Akasha being arrested by mistake and being presented in a court of law. I mean, what was that all about? A series of events followed that ended up in the death of Akasha. The first thing that happened is that this headline news completely spooked his clients in the Netherlands, the people he used to sell to. So much so that they told him, we no longer want to do business with you. It is more than fascinating that one of the things that really spooked his partners in the Netherlands was that they feared this whole drama would attract the attention of the DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency in the United States of America, who everybody in the trade feared because they were thorough and you couldn't bribe them. And guess what? That is exactly precisely what ended up happening. Anyway, let us continue. And so Akasha decided to get some new partners, some Yugoslav barons, and he started doing business with them. But they did not pay him for a shipment worth a lot of money. Yeah, hundreds and thousands of US dollars. Now I hope you can already see vile biashara ilikuwa imeharibika. As a result of this small thing, this small mistake Akasha made, yeah, why hold the police officer in your house? Treat them with respect, even if you're very powerful. Yeah, answer their questions, and then they'll go away. And then you remain powerful, and nothing happens. But now you decide you want to teach him a lesson. Anyway, other bad things were also happening. Just the year after 1996, the year he was arrested and then released, in 1997, Ibrahim Akasha's son Hassan was arrested and jailed in Tanzania, yeah, for dealing in mandrax. And now Akasha was in very serious trouble because he could not sell his product. Yeah, his new clients had refused to pay. And his old and trusted clients had said that they wanted nothing to do with him. And so Akasha did what he did best. He kidnapped somebody else. This time, the middleman who was involved in the deal that went bad with the Yugoslav barons. And he told the Yugoslavs that he's not going to release him until they pay him. And then there was a new development. His old partners in the Netherlands invited him to Amsterdam. They told him, why don't you come over? We sit down and we talk and we iron out this issue. And so Akasha was excited. He decided that this business trip could also double up as a small holiday. And so he went along with his youngest wife, I believe his wife number 4. Her name is Gazi Hayat. Yeah, he decided to go along with her. And they took off from Nairobi and landed in Amsterdam, Holland. And they were walking happily along a street, yeah, which coincidentally is called Blood Street, along the red light district of Amsterdam, when somebody appeared in a pikipiki na akamimina marisasi nyingi. And that was the end of Ibrahim Akasha. He was left there bleeding out, and his poor young wife screaming and trying to call for help. Now apparently what had happened is that the Netherlands was still very nervous about Akasha and what he was still doing. They did not want to attract the attention of the DEA, and therefore it was decided the only way of dealing with Akasha was with risasi, kumaliza kabisa. And therefore they invited him to Amsterdam, which was actually a trap. Okay? Very, very instructive story. Very relevant to what we're going through right now in Kenyan politics, as we shall see very shortly. Now, the first time I did a video on this channel about a man called Faruk KET, most Kenyans were very bored. Who is that? Why does he matter? Why should we even know about him? Kumekucha wasting our time. The only person who was excited about it was my friend in the UK, Jamal. He called me, spent a fortune on telephone calls to me to give me even more information about this character. Others, the rest of the Kenyans, were bored. And of course, that was the way it was supposed to be. Yeah, for this man to continue doing what he was doing, for him to continue doing his job, it was very important that he remain in the shadows. People don't even know him. In fact, some people even think that it is a rumor. No such person exists. That was the best scenario for him. Just like it was for Ibrahim Akasha. Yeah, when he was in the shadows and nobody even knew what he looked like, business was good. He was effective. But now recently, if you go to social media, they are talking nothing else. They're just talking about a man called Faruk KET. And they're linking him to all kinds of things. Even the Subaru boys. Which I dare say is logical. Yeah, you know, in any government, you have people who fix things. Okay? For example, Rigathi Gachagua annoys you. You call in your Mr. Fix-It. Deal with this guy. I want him impeached. The media, or even some characters on social media, say the wrong things. Yeah, they embarrass President Ruto. They say things which President Ruto does not like, and also his handlers don't like. They call in Mr. Fix-It. Kwenda rokota huyo jamaa. By the way, the latest is that blogger Francis Gaido has been arrested yet again. Why has he been arrested? He has been arrested for practicing his constitutional right of free speech. And very predictably, if he's actually presented in a court of law, he'll be charged with a crime, something to do with misusing cyber equipment, cyber gadgets. Hii Kenya yetu. Anyway, My point is, Faruk KET is getting very famous. He is becoming a celeb. Now I'm sure you know and understand exactly what I'm driving at. Because of the Akasha story I gave you earlier, I'm sure you fully understand. But there's something else much bigger. A much bigger blunder has resulted from this small mistake. Okay? And this is what it is. Let me try and summarize it in one short sentence or long sentence. What has happened here, very quickly and very suddenly, is that the UDA party has completely been wiped out from the succession lineup. And I will tell you why that is important. Please remember, this is not high school politics. This is brutal, merciless national politics. Please keep that in mind. Now the UDA party is already unpopular. Okay? And now they've completely been wiped out of the succession matrix. What do I mean? We do not have a deputy president. And if we're to believe legal experts, we will not have a deputy president for a very, very long time. Maybe even 3 years. Miaka tatu. We'll not have a deputy president. I can hear somebody saying, Chris, so what? What's the big deal? I will tell you. Many, many times in history, we read that when a kingdom or when a king did not have a clear heir to the throne, then that kingdom became unstable. Have you ever asked yourself why? I'll tell you. It became unstable because those people surrounding the seat of power, remember these people have ambitions, they're human beings. Those people surrounding the seat of power suddenly saw an opportunity. They smelt blood. And therefore usually what followed was a very unstable kingdom that usually ended abruptly, and with chaos ensuing in that kingdom. And so what we have here today in Kenya is that we have a regime that is even more shaky. In fact, is much more shakier than it was before somebody came up with this idea, very bad idea, of impeaching Rigathi Gachagua. Now we have a situation where we have Rigathi Gachagua, a deputy president who has been impeached by the Senate. Legally or illegally, the Senate has impeached him. This thing has also gone through the National Assembly. That is not a small matter, even as this matter remains in court. And then we have a new, brand new, deputy president, Kithure Kindiki, who cannot be sworn in. Why? Because of legal complications. And therefore, in my opinion, the truth is, we do not have a deputy president at the moment. Kenya is without a deputy president. Now, why is that so scary? Why is that important? Well, we are all mortal. Our lives are in the hands of Almighty God, the good book tells us. And so if something happens to Ruto today, who will take over as president? Well, according to the constitution, Moses Wetangula. Now, if you don't believe me, read that part of the constitution for yourself. It is on your screens right now. And so all of a sudden, this man called Moses Wetangula has become a very important political figure in Kenya. More than important. Nobody's talking about it, at least not yet. But it is important, in my opinion. And even more important politically, Wetangula does not belong to the UDA party. And therefore, what we have here is that the UDA party, with one blunder, has been wiped out from the succession matrix, which politically is always very significant, as I believe I've already proved to you by giving you the example of what used to happen in the old days when people had kings and they needed heirs in place, long before that king was recalled by his maker. And in my opinion, that was the very last nail on the coffin of the party, once very powerful, called UDA. UDA, Kucha maneno. Okay? And I'm sure you can see why. Because, remember, even before all this party is already very unpopular in the country. Actually, I lived during the KANU days, and I can tell you without hesitation that UDA is an even more hated party than KANU ever was. UDA is much, much more hated right across the country. Because in the KANU days, we still had very strong KANU zones. The coast, for instance, stuck with KANU to the end. Ukambani, for instance, was KANU zone kabisa. The opposition found it very difficult to penetrate there. Yeah. But the UDA party has scored a first, the most unpopular party ever in the history of our country. And now these latest developments can only mean UDA Kucha maneno. And it gets worse, I'm afraid, for Ruto and UDA. Now recently, Ruto has filed an affidavit with the courts. Now. That has never happened before in our history. Never before has a sitting president filed an affidavit in an active case in the courts in Kenya. Because, you know what it means? It means that the court, especially the lawyers on the other side, can call the author of that affidavit, Ruto himself, to appear in court and answer questions. Now, I don't know why. Something crazy in my mind is telling me that this may be deliberate. That actually, it may be intentional for Ruto to appear in court and release bombshells about Gachagua. I don't know why something is nagging at my mind. As crazy as it looks, that may be the case. Because if it is not, this is the blunder of the millennium, not even of the century. What? I'm well aware of the fact that to make the case against Gachagua stronger, it is good for Gachagua's boss himself to give evidence. Because Gachagua is only answerable only one man and one man alone, the president. I know that. But still, I think you'll agree with me, this is more than crazy. What? Well, now as promised, very early on in this video, a quick Kumekucha story from my archives. Now, during the Kibaki presidency, in those days we had not even started the YouTube channel, there was this contact I had who was very deep in the Kibaki government. And one day there was an important national debate. I won't give you specifics. And this contact of mine was in attendance. A very well-known politician. He is today a governor. Very well known. There's no in the country where he is not known. Stood up to speak. And he was referring to some notes. And my contact quickly got in touch with me. Very excited. And I was wondering what the issue is. And they revealed to me that they had been able to see the document this politician was referring to. And he told me to prepare for the shock of my life. He told me the document was a photocopy of one of the pages of the Kumekucha blog. I was speechless. Now I'm very glad it never got to my head. Indeed, it was a humbling experience to realize for the first time the kind of audience I was reaching with the Kumekucha brand. So many other similar incidences have happened over the years. But I remember that one as a very, very first instance. I look forward to sharing more and more fascinating stories from the past of the Kumekucha brand as we speedily approach our 20th anniversary. Now, before I go, I just want to remind you of my very sensitive special report on what is really going down, or rather what has really been going down behind the scenes. Fascinating stuff. And it is available only for 19.99 Kenya shillings. And you'll have it pop together with the other past highly sensitive special reports. But today I want to draw your attention to one of those special reports you'll receive, because you'll receive this latest one and all the previous ones. I want to draw your attention to one of those previous special reports, the one on the Ogolla assassination. Now, recently information has come out about what may have happened, brand new information. Now, I believe that it is a good idea that you get hold of this special report and you compare the crazy details in that special report with what people are saying now, at this point in time. It'll blow your mind. Now, of course, this opportunity will not last forever. So please, if you're able to, act immediately. You can see details on your screens right now, repeated in the description area below this video on YouTube, and also in the comments area. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.